And we are live, folks, looking at the sun at 193 angstroms as the coronal hole Windstream arrives. We see an elevated KP index, an energized magnetosphere, and there's a bunch of stories to cover, so let's get right into it. No screwing around. Going to look at a couple other views here. 304 angstroms. We're looking at 48 hours today instead of a custom short scale view. So last 2 days of filamentary activity. Hope you had a lovely weekend. As we do see some filaments swinging around the sun there, right up here in the northwest. Right at the end of the video, you'll see there's a filament eruption. And let's move on, as there's plenty of stuff to cover. Solar wind speed is elevated. We also see a negative BZ and a pretty high BT also here in the top pane. There is another coronal hole swinging into the Earth-facing region in the next 2 days. Phi angle currently at 101, and that's degrees for you new viewers. Solar wind density elevated to 12.16 protons per cubic centimeter, and the wind speed is in the process of ramping up right now, I think, currently at 540 kilometers per second. And there's the ACE data looking pretty similarly. Going to skip cosmic rays and transients today. We did cover it yesterday. Perhaps you'd like to tune into that video after this one's complete. Here's where planets are and so forth in the solar system. Each day right now we're getting a conflagration of the Mercury, Sun, Venus, and Mars. Basically an inner solar system party going on each day. Here's where things will be in 1 week. And let's look at some more data, such as the coronagraph from stereo A. And here's the latest from the stereo A coronagraph. If it loads, let's try to reopen that. See if we can see that filament eruption that went around the northwest, although I doubt it from this angle. Just let that load real quick. And this is the coronagraph from stereo A. Nothing worthy going on there. Let's move on. Here are the magnetosphere movies. We're going to look at the pressure and the density as the Earth is getting buffeted right now. High speed and much higher density than we were at. Here's a density movie. And you should see some abnormalities going on there, especially if you watch our videos every day, as we archive 4 hours of this data each day. This is the University of Michigan geospace model. Again, that's the density, low density shown in white, high density shown in dark blue. So that's the way this solar wind stream should be affecting the Van Allen belts. Here's the pressure. This is a very zoomed out view of the planet, folks. The sun would be to your left, and the magnetotail would be to your right. So there we go, a much more powered up magnetosphere than we've been having. And we see some big magnetic ground perturbations also. It'll be interesting to see where those are located. Look at the view from the whole planet here. As we see global-wide spikes in magnetism. And I'm trying to get the stream to load on a device so I can see things like comments. And YouTube is not notifying me that my own stream is on. So I don't know if this is working or not. I have no idea if it's streaming. And I'm about ready to pull the plug on the computer. Carrying on. I'm going to take a 1-minute break and I'll be right back. Sleep all day. All right, still trying to see if the stream is working, folks. I don't have any idea what the problem is this time, but I have some ideas. All right. Anyway, there's the view from the poles. Lots of perturbations going on, and this should be something to view throughout the day, as the South Pole appears to creep toward the southern Indian Ocean. Typically, we see the most perturbations here over the Canadian North Pole as far as the northern ones, although we do see some striations stretching out of the Siberian one also. So an interesting view there. Notice how it looks like a Birkeland current. It's not a coincidence. And here we are in the in-the-sky.org sky map. Wanted to show you that pile up of planets and the sun. That'll happen today. Just advance that. First you get Mercury rises, and then the sun and Venus right on top of each other, and then Mars, all in the sky at the same time. In-the-sky.org to create your own sky map. Check out the smAsho mission. It's linked in the description below the video. Thanks to our latest patron. Here's the prediction by NOAA as of last night. Calling for a KP of 5 today. What I said was the image includes NOAA's prediction of 2 KP5 events in the next 2 days. We think one of these is going to be something like a KP2, almost entirely miss the magnetosphere. And which one will do that is anybody's guess, but now seeing the current data, I'll have to say that the one predicted around midnight tonight will be much weaker than predicted, as the first one appears to be the stronger of the two. I'm expecting the second one to be much weaker, again, KP2 or 3 maybe. And I'm not sure if the KP is going to get to 5 from this one, but we'll look at it. By the way, the only tier on Patreon is $1. So thanks again to our latest patron. Keep in mind that that's going to change soon. We're probably going to do a $10 tier shortly. Thanks again, patrons. Also, thanks to those of you who've been visiting our affiliate link at the Spaced Out campaign. It's doing fairly pleasantly, and we hope your lives are improving and your health improving and so on through the use of CBDs. Perhaps get off of a prescription medication. Do some experimentation. Check out some CBDs via the Hemp Lucid campaign, the Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our Spaced Out viewers, and linked below the video in the description box. KP currently at 3. Probably see that go to 4 or possibly 5 on this run. Typically we get the highest KP indexes after the density spike subsides. So when you see the solar wind speed going up even higher, that's when we expect the highest KP index. And that should be happening in the next couple of hours. So you can watch that in real time as it happens via the links below the description. Here's the X-ray flux, totally flatlined as you'd expect. Let's take a look at the LASCO C2, as there was a filament eruption. I doubt we'll be able to see it from this view, as Venus continues to make its way. We're going to look at auroras in a minute, and I can't get off this view, so bye-bye space weather enthusiast dashboard. Here's the aurora forecast. First we're looking at Australis. If you're in Antarctica, please leave a comment, especially if you're looking at the auroras. There's a very high probability that you'll be able to see some. Here's a GOES electron flux, and we're seeing a typical coronal hole Windstream reduction in the electron flux there. For your new viewers out there, keep in mind that N's and M's are noon and midnight local time for the satellites. So we're expecting this to remain very low throughout the day. Moving on to the ionosphere, we'll load the animation for you here, courtesy of Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. For all you earthquake forecasters out there, this should be invaluable. And part of the reason we make these videos, folks, is so people like Ben Davidson can have an easier time looking at the same data that he looks at every day. So, we do consider Ben a colleague, even though we don't agree on everything. I'm going to try to get Robitaille for an interview one of these months, perhaps when his summer vacation ends. Anyway, there's the current ionosphere situation. That's the last 6 hours, folks. There's the current situation, and the ionosphere is still quite discharged on the sun side. Here's a GOES magnetometer. Continuing spikiness there, as was forecasted yesterday and the day before. I've been spot on with the forecast for this. Here's how I do it, via the Gong 2. This is the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And we've got some activity rising on the eastern limb of the sun there. You see there's a polarity shift happening in part of the current sheet. I'll show you the final image here. As you can see, this green portion, some oddities in there happening right now as the north and south Z fields battle over the polarity of this portion of the sheet. So that would be something interesting to watch throughout the day today. I'll play that one more time for you so you see that happening. And we are expecting continued anomalies in the GOES magnetometer as a result of this situation, as well as the coronal hole wind stream. Coronal hole wind streams, I should say. Check us out on social media like Facebook and Instagram. You may see brilliant clips like this one, as we love the Three Stooges over here on the smAsho channel. Love the Three Stooges. Instagram.com/smAshomash. Also on Twitter and on Gab, where most of our data doesn't get lost or misplaced. I don't know why we ended up with the thumbnail we ended up with today, folks. There's some kind of a settings problem with YouTube. Also follow us on minds.com/smAshomash. Me amore, Google. Help us get to 500,000 views. We have a massive number of views for only having 700 subscribers. And many of your favorite YouTubers might already be here on Minds, the social media that's open source and will not censor you. Also, if you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. Press the notification bell. You may even see our videos when they go live. Earthquake uptick. Japan gets a 6.3. Let's run down the entire list. This happening about 18 hours ago. 6.3 hits Japan. 4.8 at Auckland Island. There's another one south of New Zealand. Solomon Islands, 4.7, 4.7 at New Zealand. New Zealand getting quakes on the north and south portion. Heads up New Zealand. 4.1 at Bolivia. That one's at depth. As the Andes, as western South America remains on alert for a larger quake. 4.5 at Colombia. 4.7 at Indonesia. 4.5 at the Philippines. 5.1 at Afghanistan. That one's at depth. That's bad news for Afghanistan. If that one would have been at the surface, that would have been a 6+ magnitude, and buildings would have crumbled. 4.1 at Honduras. That one not at depth. 5.3 at Iran, as we get another Middle Eastern quake, practically twice a week. 4.9 at the Southeast Pacific Rise. A 4.7 at Fiji. A 4.5 at Sitkan Island. So we see quakes all around the world, folks. 4.3 at Cuba, the largest we've seen in the Caribbean for quite a while. That probably caused some damage. Please leave a comment if you're seeing the video in Cuba, which I highly doubt. How about a 5.8 at the Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge? Pretty much halfway in between South America and Africa there. 4.7 at Fiji. That one's at depth. 4.7 at Indonesia. 4.7 at Indonesia. That one's at depth. 4.9 at Vanuatu. 5.0 at Indonesia. Basically, if you're in an earthquake-prone zone, folks, there's another coronal hole swinging into the Earth-facing zone. When these coronal hole wind streams subside, You're going to be looking at a magnetic connection once again to those coronal holes, so have an earthquake plan. Know which buildings will crumble, have a bug-out bag, etc. Here's a pressure situation as of now. Volcano rundown. Volcano rundown. Today's volcanoes include a new member to the list, who is back on the list. Anyway, Mount Aso is being a real Aso, and it's producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. Suwanisajima exploded. Yeah, in the Ryukyu Islands. Sanjiang Api, explosive activity continues there. 8,000-foot ash plume. Dakono, continuous emissions. 6,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl. By the way, we did have a stratospheric eruption at one of these volcanoes. I forget which one. Please leave a comment if you remember. Popocatépetl, still erupting. Volcanic ash seen in satellite imagery. Revenador, not seen in satellite imagery. Sabancaya producing a 27,000-foot ash plume as it continues to explode day and week and month after month. Also, Nevados de Chilean producing a 16,000-foot ash plume. Please do not attempt to broad jump Nevados de Chilean. Here's the 10 hectopascal winds. That's a measure of pressure, if you weren't aware, with hectopascals, not the most common measurement that we use here on Earth, as we're looking at very high altitude winds here. Look a little like a Birkeland current to you folks? That's because there's one going through the planet at all times. Indeed, you could say there's several. Let's look at the jet streams. Here's a northern jet, which actually does resemble a jet here over the North Atlantic, as well as over Southeast Asia. But the rest of it looks like a bunch of convective activity. Has it traveling in totally opposite directions from normality. Southern jet looking a little more normal, although extremely meridional in flow. Not particularly predictable, and capable of injecting really hot air and really cold air into places where you wouldn't expect it, causing crazy weather and making people think that the weather is controlled by chemtrails or some other nonsense like that. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar. No more time to be spent on that. One thing I can say for sure is don't get pitted. I mean, because, you know, that could be a really bad day.
Dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like pull in, and you just get...
I mean, whatever you do, don't get pitted, because surfing's fun. If there's a storm off the coast, that's fun. But don't get pitted. Don't get pitted. Links to that video in the description also. Here's the U.S. water vapor map, courtesy the NASA GOES interactive weather satellites. So that's the situation going on. If you see funky weather above your head and the Doppler radar's not telling you what it is, go find a water vapor map. The water vapor shows you water vapor that is not condensed onto clouds. So you don't need precipitation, you don't even need a cloud. The water vapor map sees it all, folks. Let's look at this convergence here. One over Nebraska. I don't know. I don't understand why I click stuff and nothing happens. It's a mystery. Pretty sure it's the software, but I'm going to get a new mouse anyway. Anyway, there's a convergence zone. If you're around these areas and you're wondering what's going to happen next, this map might be able to tell you. It's the NASA GOES interactive weather satellite. Now we've moved on to the that's an ass and that's a hole in the ground section. If you didn't know the distinction, let's talk about tactics and strategy. Let's use both words in a sentence. If you are such a bad driver that your strategy devolves into tactics, you should put it in a parking lot and learn to drive. In other words, when you're driving, plan ahead, folks. Plan ahead. Look as far down the road as you can. If you see a tie-up, put on your four-ways early, get over and slow down, and don't get rear-ended by things like tractor trailers or other motorists. who are looking at their phone instead of the road. Anyway, we did include the definition of strategy in the description below the video. There is a link to that there. Google has a silly
strategy
of trying to control information itself. And since information is free, that's a really stupid strategy. 10 alarming things that you may not know about the economy. Let's run down the list. We're going to have a lot of immigrants over the next 20 years, accounting for a stunning 87% of population growth. We're going to have a lot more illegal immigrants over the next couple of years, expecting 2.4 million in 20 years' time. We're going to be up to our eyeballs in debt as the government does not stop spending. So when a tax cut is not accompanied by a spending cut, we call you a tax and spend liberal. And anyway, the debt's continuing to soar. We owe so much money that we're looking at 4.2% of GDP to service the debt, which will damage the economy. There will be added inflation. Social Security, Medicare programs are at risk. Everybody knows this. Expecting an increase in taxes around 2025 at least. You can forget tax cuts, obviously. And to make that worse, there's going to be added inflation and rising food prices, which we've been warning our viewers about since February when we watched the record snow pile up. Because snow has to go somewhere in the summertime, folks, and that is into meltwater, which is why there's been so much flooding. Also, the extremely cold temperatures and the extremely record rain 2 years in a row. Anyway, here's a Zero Hedge article about how some farmers are already rationing corn as animal feed. Check it out. There's a turtle swimming in some guy's corn. Here's all kinds of crop losses, which again we've been talking about since February, warning about since February, since it was obvious that it would occur. Here's the year-over-year June 9th Illinois corn yield. Here's the Kansas year-over-year June 10th corn yield. Was it as high as the elephant's thigh on the 4th of July? Please leave a comment. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Here's Indiana, same thing. Links to this article also in the description. We're not going to look at markets, but we have links to CNBC. Biden offers sympathy for tragic events in Houston and also in Michigan. I guess he got Houston and El Paso mixed up, as well as Ohio and Michigan. Now, I don't know if you new viewers were aware, but we're not exactly a fan of Google. It's not really our favorite company out there. And we really wish people would stop using it as a verb, just saying. How about some crazy dude in France flew over the English Channel? Flying man. I want to see a crazy video. Check this out. Links in the description to this also. Courtesy of Reuters. That is for real. I'm awestruck by this. Wow. Check out the takeoff. See ya. Here he goes. And he's going to step on the gas. Bye-bye. Wow. Wow. I don't know if I would do that even if I could. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to the smAsho stream, everybody. We are about out of here. We're going to show you a 171 angstrom view of the sun, and then we're going to exit stage F'd. We're going to exit stage F'd. And then we're going to go help protect the food supply chain. Now, you may see the filamentary eruption there in the northwest. That did not appear to produce any sort of an Earth-facing CME as far as we can tell at this point. And let's include one bonus feature, which is going to be the LASCO C2. Just tune into that real quick. Courtesy of solarham.net, who puts the LASCO right on their home page. So here's a LASCO C2. You may be able to see some filamentary eruption here toward the end of the video. This is a GIF animation, by the way, folks. Here's yesterday. And it looks like a little ejecta came out of the southwest, actually, associated with that filament. And that just goes to show you that you don't need any kind of an X-ray flare to have a filament eruption. So that's about it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Please visit the links below the video to support the channel. To help these videos continue to exist, the likelihood continues to rise and the operation continues to expand. Thanks for tuning in. Please press like and subscribe and so on. Follow us on the other social medias as we do interact on some of them. Enjoy your week. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.